Extraordinary that it's been a year. When you think back to that first interview that we did, that 23 million people watched around the world, and I still get asked about it all the time. Just take me back to how you were feeling then. It was so, in immediate aftermath of October the 7th, Israel's response was coming very hard at the time. What was in your mind at the time when you did that interview and the way you conducted it?
I was very scared. I was advised by my managers and agents not to do the interview because I could lose my career. And I just took it because, and I actually, as a matter of fact, your producers asked me a couple of times and I said no because,
Really?
and then I said like I had to do it.
I want to play, just for those who haven't seen it, there aren't many, but let's take a look at some of
Just for context, guys, this is Bassem. So this is his second interview with Piers Morgan. Just for a little context about what's happening in Gaza. He is Egyptian, so but at the same time he does have people he know who stay in Gaza. So he has a lot of, I suppose, family or friends of friends or family friends. So the reason why he was here, he was really showing Piers that Israel is doing nothing but a genocide, and the lies of the media is not the true indication of what's happening in there. And this is the second time he's here on Piers Morgan, and I would love to see how the interview goes. But just to say, on the first interview, it was you know how Piers Morgan is with, cutting a person while they're still talking, interruptions and everything. But the truth is, people know what's right and people know what's wrong, and what matters is the narrative. So it was discussions on what is the right response, and as in, what would be the correct, or rather the proper ratio in response to what happened on October 7th. And it's been a whole year since that event has happened, and and um, a lot has happened since. So yeah.
of that first interview.
Those Palestinians, they're very dramatic. Israel killing us. But they never die. I mean, they always come back. They're very difficult to kill, very difficult people to kill. I know because I'm married to one. I tried many times, couldn't kill her.
I mean, there's a dark humor there, and I understand why, because...
No, it's not dark humor. I try to get to her every time, but she uses our kids as human shields. I can never take her out. I really applaud Israel for doing one thing that no military force in the world does. Because I heard Ben Shapiro and I heard Ron DeSantis, and they said Israel is the only military force in the world that warns civilians before bombing them. I mean, how fucking cute. That is so nice of them. Because with this logic, if Russian troops started warning Ukrainians before bombing their houses, we're cool with Putin, right? I mean, okay, Habibi, you have warned them, go invade, it's fine, you have done your job.
It was a brilliantly devastating technique you used in that interview, which took me a while to work out what you were doing and why you were doing it. It was very powerful, resonated with many people very closely. Where do you think we are with this war now? And in fact, not just the war, obviously, in Gaza, but the wider war that's raging now in Lebanon.
Honestly, that is not a war. Honestly speaking, what's happening in Gaza is not a war. In fact, this is somewhat the same thing that happened in the Iraqi war, quote unquote, Iraq war, but 100 times worse. I like to believe. I mean, it's just been lies. They'll put a narrative, that they are, dangerous, whatnot. It could be, explosives. It could be, they will just say they have dangerous weapons. Or in this case, in the case of Gaza, it was hostages. But it's been a whole year right now, and the narrative of hostages is dried out. you know, and yeah, it's not a war. That was it was firstly an invasion, and a genocide. Simply that. It's nothing more than that.
Threats against Iran and so on, the whole thing.
I mean, Israel is defending itself, right? I mean, that's what the Western media is telling us.
They would say they are.
Yeah, yeah,
Honestly, you know, there's so many narratives around this. Is that is Israel defending itself? Are they rescuing are they rescuing hostages? Are they are they fighting back? Are they retaliating? You know, they in fact they're using all of these words. You know, they say they're defending themselves, but they're not on the defensive, but rather on the offensive. And um wow, man. And they say they this is what they're doing to try and eliminate Hamas, right? So that means they're an offensive. If they're trying to eliminate Hamas, that's not a defensive thing, that's an offensive. They trying to go and eliminate Hamas, but at the same time, you know, the largest number of people who are dying is the women and children, you know. And another narrative is that they were trying to rescue the hostages, you know. So it's just lies on top of lies, just to cover up what they're actually trying to do, which is kill as many Palestinians as possible.
and I want to buy into it. I'm trying to convince my
Can you
friends.
buy into any of their logic that they believe they are defending themselves?
Okay,
Do you believe them that they believe that?
let's put that in the test. So if Israel is defending itself, it's defending itself against an imminent danger, like an existential threat. I don't understand if, for example, Macron would announce that he will impose an embargo in Israel's arms, and then Israel goes and bombs the French oil facilities in Lebanon. How is that defending themselves? I don't. There's like a group of American doctors who were in Gaza and came back, and they reported seeing tens of children with sniper shots in their heads and necks. How is that defending themselves?
not.
Just a couple of days ago, we saw a little kid being shot by a drone. His family came to help him, and then they were all killed. How is that defending itself? I mean, I hear it, but I just don't see it.
But do you believe that fundamentally Israel believes it is acting in self-defense?
Israel can believe whatever they want. I'll tell you a story that actually can tell you exactly how Israel. I'm from Egypt. You understand this? You don't know this, right?
Yeah.
April 1970, there was an attack of an Egyptian school in the middle of Delta, 100 kilometers from where my parents were born. It's called Bahr al-Bakr. On that day, Israel bombed a school, killing 30 students. Now, what was so interesting, going back in history, this was the headline of the New York Times.
So 30 pupils in said to die in
Of the day, and it was
raid.
says 30 pupils in Egypt said to die in raid. Said to die, the passive voice. Which raid? Who did the raid? We don't know. And then you read it. This is Moshe Dayan. He was the defense minister of Israel at the time. He said the target had been a military structure that had been photographed from air both before and after the raid. What could have happened here was irresponsibility of high orders from the Egyptians, that they set aside a floor or some room for civilian purposes such as a school. Now, do you believe that? You don't, right? It's ridiculous. And the fact is that the New York Times then, same as the New York Times there, covering for it. But there was one thing that caught my attention. They said no mention was made of the use of napalm in the attack. I said, why would we have such a disclaimer? It's because 3 months ago, Israel bombed a civilian metal plant, killing 70 workers with napalm.
Stop. Give me a
Wow.
few seconds of your time, please. Don't be surprised.
So
That
this clearly
there is
indicates
no
that,
light. This is
Israel
how
has a
our
long
life has
history
no light. I am in desire.
not just Israel, but like
So this,
mainly
when I
Israel, it has a long history with um, using the media to be on their side and speaking passively with cases that uh, um, they're just good with covering up. They're just very good with covering up their crimes, and they use these media outlets, even before, which is newspapers. They would find a way to hide under the rug what they're actually doing, using passive voices, using just changing the narrative. And that's the evil thing about them, is that there's a quote from, I forgot from who exactly, but he said, um, watch out, because the newspapers can make you hate the victims and make you love um, perpetrators, which is exactly what's happening. Honestly, this is exactly what's happening today, whereby the victims and the people who are being tortured, are pictured as the evil ones, and the people who are actually destroying other people's lives are pictured as heroes. And it's a sad world, man.
Metal plant killing 70 workers with napalm. So this, and I'm sorry to say, but they are.
Do you categorize what Hamas has been doing, particularly on October the 7th, what Hezbollah did within hours of October the 7th and carried on for the next year, what the Houthis have done, a lot of it orchestrated by, doubtless, the Iranian regime? Do you categorize that as resistance, as freedom fighting? Or are there elements of all those groups who are genuinely terrorist in their thinking?
Well, someone's a terrorist is other one's
Yeah, I wonder
hero.
how you categorize it.
How I categorize it? I mean, like, I'm an American citizen. Of course, I don't want to come back and find the FBI raiding my house. So yes, of course, they're terrorists.
Do you believe that?
Well, at the advice of my lawyer, I would say
Well,
that they're terrorists.
I don't think you'd be banned from going back to America.
You
You said
think?
they were
You
terrorists.
know what happened to Scott Ritter? He was the former UN inspector of nuclear weapon in Iraq.
He's a convicted pedophile.
Yeah, but like when he was raided a few months ago, it was because he was talking against Israel. Asa Winstanley, he was a British journalist in London, and his house was raided just last week because he talked about Israel. And this is actually, Piers, what I like about you is that you are a fierce warrior against cancel culture, right?
Yeah.
If you cancel people for their opinion, we're not living in a
I
free
agree.
world anymore, right?
I totally agree.
So, for example, you have Robert Saleh, who was the coach of the NFL Jets. He wore like a small Lebanese flag, and he was canceled. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. I came to America, and I was so happy that I can speak about anyone I want, and then suddenly it's like, oh, we can do whatever you want,
but
unless if it's like
It is. I mean, it's tangible to me when I go to
speak
America,
about
far
them,
more than it is in the UK, for example.
if you
The
speak about the
support
Jews,
for Israel
honestly,
is pretty rock solid in
you
terms of
are
their
going to be
political
pressed.
class, in
And that's
terms
the
of
reality of it.
much of
It's
the
a sad
media, if not
reality
all
of
of the media. It's more tangible in America than it is in most other countries,
yeah,
including here.
yeah.
A lot more criticism of Israel here than there is in America.
Yeah, and yet you have Israel having a crazy control on the political apparatus, whether in America or in here. I mean, 13 out of 25 of the labor cabinet here are funded by Israeli lobbies. 126 out of 355 MPs are funded by Israel. I mean,
That's a lot.
out of those 13 members of cabinet is the prime minister himself, his counselor, his deputy, the home secretary, the foreign secretary, and the secretary of the treasury, who oversees the arms shipments to Israel. So I don't understand why. I mean, I think we should talk about that more about anything, because that is actually what gives Israel the cover for what they're doing.
My take on Israel is.
I don't understand. I mean, I get it. Piers is trying to have a platform as long as he can, in order for him to interview as many people as he can, so that the truth can be pushed as far as possible. But he has to keep himself safe, because I'm pretty sure he knows exactly that the people who are in control of the media don't like when a certain narrative, which is mostly the truth, when the truth is said as it is, they don't want that. And Piers Morgan has to balance that. He doesn't want to, I would just say, be more left leaning or more right leaning. And in this case, he doesn't want to be leaning towards the the West, or too much. At the same time, he doesn't want to be leaning too much to the right, to the eastern or to the Middle East side. That is including, the Palestinians, the Arabs, and a lot more. But he should rather just balance that out, because if he leans more to the West, his audience will be angry with him, and he'll lose most of his credibility. But if he leans more to which is the truth and the right side, which is, what the audience want to hear, and the audience want to hear the truth, honestly. And when he does that, his funders and all the people who are basically allowing his platform to exist will be angry, because um, you guys know what I'm saying. You guys know what I mean. So I mean, I have to give it to him, that he's kind of like juggling fire right now, juggling fire and water, and he's trying to keep that balance, and it's pretty sure difficult, but at least he's giving people the platform.
Government is that Netanyahu, to get back into power, aligned himself with some very hard right-wing people who've spoken in a very genocidal language about what they really want to do with Gaza and Palestinian people, and that he should go and they should go, and there should be new leadership in Israel, but that there should also be no place in power or government going forward for a group like Hamas after what they did on October the 7th. Would you agree with me?
Well, I'm not a Palestinian, so I cannot really.
What's your view?
Well, what's my view? Oh, yeah, I understand the view of. Well, there's two things about it. First of all, when you say that Netanyahu and Smotrich and Ben Gvir should go, it's as if as the rest of the Israeli political scene is peaceful. As a matter of fact, more than 90% of Israelis in a poll said that they should do more in Gaza. Over 70% of Israelis.
Imagine that. Like, imagine an entire population of people who believe they should just do a lot more of what they're already doing in Gaza. And you know, it's just like the same case in America, where you have these Democrats, and the Democratic Party just keeps on bombarding propaganda to its people. So much you have these people who truly believe in the lies that they were told, um, and believe the narratives that they were given, so much that uh, 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 they are willing to do the most outrageous things to other people, but without knowing, because they fundamentally believe that what they were told is truth. Like, for example, um, Americans at some point were told that, in Africa there's no water. In Africa there's just poverty, and as a result, you found that and a huge population of Americans believe that Africa has nothing. When you tell them the things that we have, they really do not believe that. All they know is that Africa is full of sick people, HIV is full with hunger, there's no water. So that's really the power of propaganda. That's really the power of a narrative, and it can be a lie, and a lie or not, but it'll be true to those people, and they will stand that. And I believe that's the same thing with Israel. They've been, given this narrative about what's happening in Gaza, and I mean, of course, the people do have the history. People do know that there have been this conflict between Palestinians and the Jews, but honestly speaking, there is a lot more than just what the people know. There are bigger players into this. They're the elites, and Netanyahu is one of them. It's purely my opinion. I do believe he's very evil. I do believe that he is. I don't want to get myself in trouble in any way, but like, you can. I mean, you can clearly see that his motive is to kill a lot more Palestinians, regardless. I mean, they do say that, they want to get the hostages out, but they seem to be doing other things more than trying to get the hostages out, and hearing that these babies, being killed with snipers, and that's just horrendous work. Just to be trying to get hostages. Uh, my understanding of trying to get hostages is to limit death. That's the whole point, is to limit the number of casualties. And for Israel to be trying to save, about, I don't know how many hostages there are, but in turn be killing 50,000 to 100,000 of people, of Palestinians. That's just, I have no words for that. I truly have no words for that. That's just destroying people's lives. And that's destroying an entire tribe, an entire nation. That's what it is. So, yeah, man.
Really said that they should actually stop the aid, the humanitarian aid in Gaza. But let's talk about how, yeah, I understand the thing. Like, if you gave them a state, it would be rewarding terrorists, right? And we understand, like, I mean, I have to be fair. I know that a lot of Arabs will hate me for saying this, but like, yeah, terrorism has been actually going in the Middle East for a very long time.
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember the bombing of the King David Hotel? 92 British soldiers were killed. The bombing of the Cairo Haifa train, over 200 soldiers, British soldiers killed. The assassination of Volker Bernadotte or Lord Moyen, all done by Israeli Zionist militias. They were the terrorists, and they were rewarded of having their own state. So I don't understand the double standard. As a matter of fact, one of the people who were in these terrorist attacks was Isaac Shamir, and he was on a terrorist list, English terrorist list, and he couldn't come to London until he became a prime minister. But to be fair,
I think that'll be the first part of this video. Um, honestly, the double standards of this is, nothing is like, everything is just one-sided with the media. And immediately when you trying to hear the other side of the story, you seem like the bad person. So I'm just glad that a lot of people have woken up to the lies and have seen what's truly happening with legacy media, and how much they've lied to the people. And just to sum things up quickly, and as a South African, I've come to learn a lot that our history was just filled with lies, and there's always there's always truth that's hidden, in everything that people know. Especially in South Africa, there's so much gaps, from moving from the apartheid regime to being so-called free. And you know as much as we're free, there's a lot that we cannot say. And there's a lot that we cannot choose. And there's a certain bracket that no black person can ever reach. And these are things that it's hard to speak about, because when you speak about them, there is always a push to make sure what you're saying is not heard of. So I believe we have a long way to go for us to truly combat evil, and finally land in a position where everyone is truly treated as equal, regardless of the race and regardless of the past. So yeah, that's just the first part of this video. It's going to be a long video. I'm going to make a second part, and hopefully it's going to run up to the third. I'm going to divide into 3 parts. So yeah, that was the first part. Make sure you leave a subscribe, and put your notifications on, so that then when I post the next video, you can watch it. So thank you if you watched it up to this end.